So, almost criminally, you weren't that enthusiastic about horror when we met. What changed your mind?
Well, you kind of forced me to watch a ton of horrors.
You were about to swear, weren't you?
Yeah,
We're allowed, it's our own channel.
Yeah, I know, but well, actually, I don't know if you are. I don't know the rules on like the social things if you're allowed to swear or not. But I'll just keep it clean in case they cancel it because apparently our trailer was, too sensitive. But anyway,
Good.
I take that as a
I
good
like
thing.
being banned.
Yeah. Yeah. So you made me watch a lot of them, and I also hadn't watched a lot of the classics. And I think I went into horror with a completely different concept of what it was, being that it's just a stupid thing you do on a Friday night with your friends to try and scare the crap out of each other. And so they never really did that to me. I was that one friend who was just like, why are you all hiding behind your pillow? This is not scary. So I thought, what's the point? There's no story to it. I'm not scared. It's just a waste of time.
And to be fair, the ones you told me you had seen, I was shaking my head at all of them pretty much. I was like, no, this is lame. This is lame.
Yeah, there was no way in which we picked them other than congregate at the store to buy pick and mix Swedish style and rent a movie, and we just kind of browse a little bit, see what grabbed our fancy from the covers, and that was it. There was no real thought behind it ever. So I'm not surprised because there is a lot of not so good horror out there.
But there's a lot of not so good just everything.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that used to be more prevalent just for horror, but now I just feel like it's taken over all movies. Right. So, not that, I speak for you as I speak for myself, not that enthused by newer horror, and I'll just run through some of my pet peeves from behind the camera here. It's like infested with sloppy writing, cringeworthy dialogue, shoehorned political stances, and wretched steps at comedy, which for the most part I find to be a huge cop-out, which is ironic because that is a remnant left over from Scream. Obviously they inserted a lot of humour into their movie, but it was done in the right way, done in a perfect way, pretty much. Same as Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 as well, but I'm not enjoying it in newer ones. I think it's, like I said, really lame, tired. And the other thing that's really getting to me is the supposed strong female characters that I find really try hard and almost make me throw up in my mouth.
I'm sure that's their intended purpose.
As you know, Heathen has a natural female feminine anti-hero, which I'm confident will take the horror world by storm. So they're all the things that I don't like in horror. So what I'm asking is, when you watch horror, what is it that you want from it? What do you look for from horror?
Well, it seems it's completely obvious from the title of the genre, isn't it? I want to be.
But do you want to be made?
Scared. I want.
Do you
to
mostly
feel
want to be made to
something.
think, or do you just want to be entertained, or do you want to be, do you want to be made to feel uneasy? This kind of thing. I like the. What there's a lack of is when I was younger, and I was able to get my hands on Hellraiser 2, and I just felt dirty after watching it, and that is a feeling that I've only come across a couple of times afterwards, and that is something that I'm definitely trying to get to come across with Heathen. It's an unnerving movie. That's what I want. I want to be made to feel uncomfortable.
I think you and I though have a different taste in like our favourite aspects of horror, and I think even though we did have some crossovers with our top three, there are other films.
What were your top three again?
My top three: The Faculty, Scream, and The Exorcist.
Which we have the soundtrack of The Faculty just behind Karin now.
Yeah.
Pretty rare, I should say as well. Lucky to have that.
But yeah, for me, it's not so much about the gore, and I can appreciate those films as well, even the dumb ones. If it's fast paced and makes you laugh or gag, it's still for me a decent watch. But an actually good horror movie, I do definitely prefer when there's a proper story, when there are characters who you believe are real, when everything kind of fits, and when it makes you feel like it could actually be real. I think to me that's obviously the scariest part of it, is obviously is ever thinking that you could be in that situation yourself. Which is also why the zombie undead thing freaks me out so much, because when they portray it as like a disease or something spreading, I'm just like, well, maybe.
Okay, seeing as we apparently have pretty different tastes, what type of films do you think can be compared to Heathen?
Well, it's difficult because I guess it's a mashup of a few quite different ones. There's definitely aspects of body horror like The Fly or Hellraiser, and there's a kind of otherworld quality which, even though this film Heathen is not religious specifically, I still think it kind of goes along with that whole aspect of sin and doing wrong, and yeah, whether it's directly or indirectly religious, to me it kind of has a comparison with those films.
Maybe that was buried deep down in my psyche, because generally I find religion to be, a lot of the aspects of religion to be pretty terrifying as it is, and also the movies that have been made with a religious tinge, you just go to the obvious one of The Exorcist, it's truly terrifying, I find, and anytime they insert religion into it, I feel it's a really good fit. It doesn't always go well, it doesn't always, it's not always great. I've mentioned The Exorcist, and in my opinion there hasn't been, you could pretty much get rid of all the other Exorcist movies in the history of horror. There are a couple of other entertaining ones, but for the most part, and I should also mention that after Heathen, I have what I believe is an original idea for an exorcism movie. So I'm getting a bit off track here, but just want to put that in there.
Behind camera there.
Yeah, so if you can name movies, then you'd say Fly, Hellraiser, and just anything religious really, then yeah.
With that tone, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Even to an extent, The Exorcist, dare I even take that as an example? Not in the most obvious manner, but I think it has that suspense.
It wants to give you that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely try to write into it. And as you know, one of the first drafts of Heathen, it's kind of natural for me to write witty dialogue, and that's been prevalent in horror a lot recently. And I went back to it, and for the kind of movie that I want to make, I took out all of the kind of silly dialogue and made it completely serious in tone, to the point where you have to really dig
it's quite dreary.
really deep to find the darkest, blackest humour kind of thing. But consider that Toby Hooper, who's the creator of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, he says that he wrote that and directed that as a comedic movie.
Of course. What else would you classify that as?
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Anyway, I just wanted to quickly circle back. When I say religious, because this it's come to me as well, I say religion because that's the most heavily entwined society seems to have had with right and wrong. Obviously we have laws, and that can differ per country and throughout the ages, but what's more terrifying to a person is the eternal, damnation or salvation or whatever, rather than just what happens to them in this world, as we've seen lots of evidence of. So I say it's religion, but really it's just that deep.
Yeah, I'm definitely, like a lot of people, fearful of the unknown, and the unknown for me is, I think about death probably quite an unhealthy amount. But as you know, I've almost been there. I've been to the other side and come back. So I have something pretty unique to just the human race. Humans in general wouldn't have gone through that. And I won't go into it, but I saw and experienced some things, and now from not really thinking much of it, it probably comes into my head every day, and I don't know what's to come afterwards. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's black, maybe it's a completely other world, and that's part of Heathen as well, is putting back the curtain on a lot of the unknown.
Yeah, well, it's like all those, especially in the 80s, they did a lot of those catastrophic future or the different things that could be out there. And obviously you don't take any of them at like, oh, this is backed by researchers and stuff, this is likely to happen. It's just one person's artistic vision of what could be out there, and that's entertaining in itself if it's done right.
Okay, so if we circle back to what I first asked you and said, you know, what was it that you know, you weren't originally enthused completely about horror, but now would you say that if we sit down to watch a newer movie, does the potential of a new horror movie excite you more than most other genres in terms of what
at this
it could possibly
point,
bring?
and I never thought I would say that, then yeah, definitely. I'm always now trying to find a film that will actually, one, entertain me, but more than that, also actually make me feel chills, because it's so rare and it's weird. It's almost like you're chasing that feeling. But even when we watch films that aren't that scary, or you know, they tape down, as long as it's also then got something more to it, whether it be a story or really good performances, really good, you know, special effects, whatever it is.
So what did we watch last night?
Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, Pumpkinhead, starring the immortal Lance Henriksen and directed by Stan Winston. What did you think of that?
It was entertaining, definitely. I mean, I was interested the whole time.
And like you say, it just starts and it doesn't stop. There's no like long build up. Again, Heathen doesn't have this. Is another pet peeve of mine where there are a lot of praised movies currently which go on for like 2.5 hours, and in my opinion, more than an hour of it could have been cut, and you have a better movie.